And Commissioners, Dennis Fernandez, Architectural Review and Historic Preservation Manager. This evening we are without a chair and vice chair, so we will need to elect a chair to run the meeting for this public hearing. Are there any nominations for a chair for the evening?
I nominate Mr. Sutton.
Mr. Sutton, any other nominations? And Mr. Sutton, are you willing to serve in that capacity for this meeting?
I am indeed, sir.
Okay. By motion, may we have a vote on that? Show of hands.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank you. With that, we can go ahead and read the introduction for the hearing.
Let us proceed then. I would like to call to order the Monday, February 5th, 2024 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Sutton. I am your temporary chair for this commission today. I am a registered architect. I also ordinarily hold the architectural historian chair for this commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have a limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest that you be thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any question during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff will then present their report, and then we will ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. Only those comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and make their decisions based on the following items: City Ordinance, Chapter 27 of the City's Zoning Code, the Design Guidelines, the Secretary of Interior Standards, the Historic Preservation Development Review comments, and testimony given here at this public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdiction and our jurisdictional responsibility. Owners, agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. Please, if you have not already done so, please silence your cell phones. I would like to begin the introduction of my fellow commissioners. And we'll start on my left.
Hello, good evening. My name is Carol Post, and I am a former land use attorney, and I serve as the public policy designee to this commission. Thank you.
Ted Kempton, landscape architect.
Dan Myers, architect.
And John Prokop, I practice architecture.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies, ma'am. I would also like to introduce our staff: Dennis Fernandez, Elaine Lund, Alexis Guzman, and our attorney, Dana Crosby-Collier. Dennis, if you please come forward.
So, Commissioners, next action would be to adopt the minutes from the January 8th, 2024 public hearing.
I make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I second the motion.
All those in favor, please say aye and indicate.
Aye.
Aye. Against, say nay. None.
Moving on, just a couple brief announcements. We will be handling the February cycle of applications at this evening's public hearing, so we will not be holding an additional public hearing on February the 7th. Also, I do have the list of staff approvals from January 2024 that will be entered into the record. And we did last month announce that we would be initiating a small segment to celebrate some of the preservation progresses in the city of Tampa and to learn from those experiences. We've termed it Preservation in Progress. And so Elaine has prepared a brief presentation to highlight a particular property in the Hyde Park Historic District.
Thank you, Dennis. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation staff. This evening, we are looking at a project from the Hyde Park Historic District. This is for the property that was originally located at 815 South Rome Avenue and was relocated to 910 South Fremont Avenue. This it's a Dutch colonial residence, 2 stories. You saw this in front of you in November 20 when the ARC approved relocation. And again, 2, when the ARC approved the modifications and variants for the accessory structure that was on site. An interesting thing about the receiving lot for this this project is that the contributing structure on the site was the accessory structure. So this, in this case, we were moving a contributing building from one site to another site where there was already existing a contributing accessory structure, but not a contributing primary structure. Following the relocation, the Historic Preservation Commission approved the redesignation to contributing status in May of 2023. This is required when a building is relocated within the historic district. As once it's relocated, it loses its original status. This is a map showing the Hyde Park Historic District. The green arrow points to 815 South Rome Avenue, which was the sending or original site of the house, and 910 South Fremont was the receiving site in the red arrow. Again, in green and red, green being the sending site and 910 Fremont, and showing in red is the receiving site. This is the 1931 Sanborn map. You can see the structure and its original site there shown in yellow. It's a 2-story building with that little bump out on the front. This is the present day aerial map, again, with the sending site in green and the receiving site in red. So in 1944, we were lucky to find a photograph from that year of this house as it looked at that time from a real estate sales ad. That's the photo on the left, and then the photo on the right here shows you how the property looked in 2018 at 815 South Rome Avenue. This is before the relocation. During the relocation, the house was divided into multiple parts and then put back together on the receiving site on 910 Fremont. The building was rehabilitated in 2021 and 2022. And the photo on the right is showing the finished project from 2023. The accessory structure was raised up to increase the head height of the first story. And you can see that in action and the photograph on the left there, and then the final appearance of the accessory structure shown on the right. And that concludes the Preservation in Progress presentation for this month.
Thank you, Elaine. We are now ready to move on to disclosure of conflicts of interest and ex parte communication, and our legal counsel will lead that discussion.
Sure. Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to inquire if any member of the commission has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this evening?
I have none.
Thank you.
None.
Thank you. And has any member engaged in an ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda?
None.
Thank you very much.
Next, we will deal with 3 continuations. 2 of those are going to the March 4th, 2024 public hearing at 5:30 p.m. They are ARC 23-374 and ARC 23-472, and we would need a motion for that continuation, or those continuations.
I move to continue ARC 23
Dennis, do we need to read these individually, all 3, or could we combine the first 2, considering they're going both to the same date?
I think the first 2 can be combined, and then we'll do a second motion for the third one.
Understood. Thank you very much. If you may continue, sir.
I move to continue ARC 23-374 at 210 East Palm Avenue and ARC 23-472 at 712 South Edison Avenue to the Monday, March 4th, 2024 public hearing at 5:30 p.m.
Do I have a second to this motion?
I second the motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, say nay. None?
I move ARC 24-32, located at 1800 West Richardson Place, to the Monday, April 1st, 2024 public hearing at 5:30 p.m.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Again, none.
Thank you. We are now ready for the swear-in. Anyone in the audience who's going to be presenting this evening or providing public testimony, if you would please stand and raise your right hand so Ms. Guzman can administer the swear-in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
We're ready for our case for this evening. It is ARC 2415, and Ms. Lund will present the photo essay for this.
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. There we go. This property for ARC 2415 is located at 2303 North Central Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District. The structure on this site is a very small house, residence, and the proposed request is to build a new structure on the site. This is a RM24 zoned property, so while our agenda and the staff report state that this is a new accessory structure, I would like to point out that since this is an RM24 zoning district, this is in actuality not considered really an accessory structure. It would be more of a secondary, primary structure on the site. Given the size of the site, the lot, I believe, is a little under 10,000 square feet, so it is more than ample, enough in size to accommodate two residential units on site. Moving to the photo essay here, we have the Tampa Heights Historic District map with the subject site highlighted in green. It's in the southeastern portion of the historic district. This is the 1920s Sanborn map of the site. You can see that that house was not located at its present site at that time. In fact, there was a two-story building roughly located there. It's the one with a little F on it, F for flats. And there were some other buildings on the site then as well. This is the 2022 aerial photograph of the area. You can see that it's located along Central Avenue with Sparkman Avenue to the north and Park and Ross Avenues to the south. You can see the proximity of the interstate interchange just to the east there. This is the existing structure on the site now. This is the north view of the property. And the south side of the existing house. And the rear of the house on the site. Directly to the north of the property, there's an alley. And this is the house that sits directly to the south. And this is the property across the street. Here's the view looking north along Central Avenue. And the view looking to the south. This is the view in the alley looking east in the alley with the subject site to your right. And then looking out of the alley to the west towards Central Avenue. And that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time we'll have the agent for the applicant come forward to present the request.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Juan Rivera. I'm the agent on this project located at 2303 North Central Avenue. I am going to let's move this a little bit more. I'm sorry, wrong way. Okay, here we go. So I took into consideration the conditions that I was emailed, so I'm just kind of run through those slightly. We cleaned up the site plan. I got rid of some of the elevations marks. I mean, obviously the final will have them, but this will clarify a little more what we wanted to do. We are planning on doing a 1,600 square foot detached unit in the back. I don't know, can you move it up forward? So, and you can see it's going to be 37 feet away from the rear of the existing site. This is the front on Central. This is the alley that will access the garage, and it'll have a 21.9 foot driveway for the cars to park off of. The stairs have been relocated to the back side of the property, so they won't be visible from the street any longer. There's a existing privacy fence here, wood privacy fence here. There's an existing vinyl fence along the back, and then the sides have the vinyl picket fencing, so we won't be adding or changing the fencing at this time. Showing you the exterior elevations, I just want to show you the cover sheet just so you guys could have an idea of how these two structures are going to sit off of each other. I have adjusted all the heights. The structure was a little bit taller, the secondary one, but we have lowered it as much as we could, and that's kind of how it'll sit behind the existing building now. Okay. Let me start with this. This is going to be the north elevation, from the alley side. The total overall height of the structure now is going to be 24 feet. We're going to have 9-foot ceilings in the garage with 7-foot door, 18-inch floor system, and then 8-foot ceilings in the second story. So we scooted it down as much as we can. The 412 pitch is matching the existing structure, so that wasn't able to be changed. The structure is going to have 6-inch hardy board siding with 4-inch hardy boards, corner boards. The windows are going to be clad windows, and it's going to have 4-inch hardy board trim all the way around. And then we're going to do a 2.5-inch hardy board trim with the 1.5-inch hardy board sill to give it that historic look. The structure itself will be block, so we want to make that sill look appropriate. The stairs will now be on the back side of the structure, so they won't be seen from the street. and then we're gonna have a couple of sconce lights on either side. We're also adding a decorative vent up there to match the existing structure. The roof is gonna be 5B crimp metal roof, and the stairs are gonna be metal stairs with a 36-inch railing, and I have a detail for the railing that I'll show you guys in a bit. This is the front of the structure that will be facing Central Avenue. This door will be coming out of the garage, and this door here will be entering for a storage that they will have on the back side. And then we also flip the second story to show more windows towards the street side. Going around the corner from the building, this will be the south elevation. We'll have one window in the center, same vent. All the finishes will be the same. Oh, one other thing, we're gonna have smooth stucco finish around the base, and then again, the metal stairs on the side. This is the back side of the building, or east elevation. That'll show you how the stairs are gonna look and the relation of the building with the stairs. Everything else is gonna stay the same. Moving on to my details. Real quick, so let's do the railing first. Well, the railing's gonna be a inch and a quarter square metal railing with 1/2-inch square pickets, 3.5-inch spacing between them, 36 inches tall. A window trim detail a little closer. You can see here how the concrete sills sit, and then we're going to do the 1.5-inch hardy board with the 2.5-inch below it to give it a sill here, and then the 4-inch trim all the way around. And this trim's matching the existing house as well, the style. I think that's all I can go, okay. So this is my wall section, typical 2-story wall section. It's gonna have a stem footer, slab on grade for the garage. We're gonna have a wood floor system on a ledger, and then, again, concrete block, full 2 stories, pre-engineered trusses at the top, 5B crimp metal roofing. We're gonna have beadboard underneath the soffit, metal drip edge, and again, the 4-inch trim all around. We're also gonna have a 12-inch band going around the center of between the 2 floors, and at the bottom we'll have a 6-inch band. Again, hardy board siding wrapping the entire building. I do have a few samples. This is just a quick sample of the hardy board that we'll be using and the 5B crimp metal. And lastly, we also have a color palette. These are the colors that we have chose. It'll be a green for the body and this Gosling off-white for the trim. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Commissioners, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Moving on with the staff report, staff found that this application is consistent with the Tampa Heights Design Guidelines. There are some details that may warrant your attention, such as the window and door alignment, and the details such as the garage door and the person doors on the building. And also, I would like to point out that the metal stairs are not typical to the historic district. Typically, we do have people do wood stairs. However, that is you know, sorry, I can't think of the word. That is up to the board to decide whether or not they prefer, would prefer the wood stairs or if the metal is acceptable. Thank you.
Do we have any public comment for this presentation this evening? Hearing none and seeing none, we'll proceed with the questioning of the petitioners from our commissioners, and I will start with Mr. Prokop on my right.
Hi there.
Hi.
Couple of questions. You said that you're not going to change or do anything to the existing fencing, but you have to in order to provide a new driveway off the alley, correct?
Correct, other than that, would just be removing that, but we're not gonna be removing the entire fence.
Right. How are you going to deal with where the places are you remove it? Are you going to put new posts in, or how is
Just
that
some-
going to be dealt with?
Some new post, or depending how the sections fall, probably just remove a section, because there's already existing posts.
Right. That's a detail we'd like to know about, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any idea of what the garage door manufacturer is?
Not offhand on the manufacturer, we haven't picked one, but we'll go with something that.
Okay. I noticed in your wall sections and the elevations that the garage is considerably above grade. Is there a reason for that?
It's only 12 inches above grade. So, yeah, the reason is you don't want it down flat. We want it, there'll be a 6-inch driveway and then 6-inch step up into the garage. So the driveway will be sloped.
Okay.
But that's the reasoning for it.
Okay. Do you have dimensions of the roof overhangs?
The roof overhangs will be 16 inches, and yes, I'm sorry, I just
Okay.
ran through it, but it's
Right.
noted there.
Do you know what the house?
They're matching the house overhangs.
The main house has
Cor-
16 inches also?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any information on door hardware?
On the door hardware, no, we do not.
On the man doors and the man door hardware?
No, we do not at the moment.
Can you show an elevation of the man doors, please? What's your intent for those doors exactly?
I think they'll probably be wood or metal doors. These are just gonna be recessed panels.
Right, and no glazing in any of them?
Not in the garage doors, no.
How about the second floor?
The second floor, we could do the glazing, and this is we're keeping the doors all similar, but we could do glazing on the
Right.
entrance door. but-
These are just typical details on the checklist that
No
are
worries.
supposed to be included in the presentation. That's all I'm asking for.
Sorry.
Okay. And any information on the lighting fixtures? Will there be a lighting fixture here on the outside of the second floor door? I assume there would be.
Yes, there would be one there.
Okay, and then the two next to the garage, any information on those?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Let me see if there's anything else. Can you put up your wall section, please?
Yes, sir.
Can you zoom into the roof overhang, please? So that we can read it. Okay, so we're looking at a beadboard soffit and a painted, I assume, hardy.
Hardy fascia,
Fascia.
correct.
Okay, no gutters,
No
no
gutters.
downspouts. Okay. I think that's it for me.
Daniel?
This may be a question for staff. Can you clarify the status of the building in front? Is that a contributing? It appears as though it was moved there. Is that correct?
Yes, this building was moved to the site at some point in its history. Unfortunately, we don't have an exact record of that date, but it was, I believe, prior to the historic district being established in 2000.
It seems like the previous action says construct foundation and locate single-family residence with driveway.
Yes, in 1991, I see that, yes.
Yeah, okay. So, but it's contributing
Yes, it is.
because it was old enough. I guess it was actually built in, say we're going to say it was built in 1913, and then it got moved here.
Correct.
So just to
Dennis.
point, the Tampa Heights Historic District wasn't established until 2000. So this would have been inventoried just prior to the district being established in that location, and they determined that it met the criteria at that time to be contributing. So it retains that status.
Ah, okay.
Thank you, Dennis.
And I have one other, what was the reason that that the building appears to be quite a distance from the property line? The new building, there's a camphor tree, and it seems like you moved it in order to accommodate the camphor tree?
And on the rear side, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we tried to accommodate all the trees on the existing site. So,
okay, so it's,
move it forward, yeah, so
Oh,
there's
you've
a
got
camper
20
tree, and
Ah.
we're maintaining a 15-foot radius around that. But the house, the building is 20 feet from the rear property line.
okay. And that's a zoning requirement, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that, okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Ted?
Good evening.
Good.
What's the rationale for using the metal stairs versus a more typical wooden stairs?
I just thought they would be more durable, and less maintenance in the long run than
Okay.
just a wooden stair.
Okay. You also talked about the height. You reduced the height of the structure. Is there any more wiggle room available in that?
Unfortunately, no, yeah, we reduced it. We originally had 10-foot ceilings in the garage, 8-foot garage doors, 24-inch floor system, and then 9'4" second story to have 8-foot doors all the way around, 8-foot doors and window head height.
Right.
In order to accommodate and bring it down, we brought the garage down to 9 feet to still keep a little bit of storage, lowered the doors to 7-foot doors in the garage, and all the other doors 6'8" as opposed to 8 foot. Lowered the floor system in between by 6 inches to a 18-inch floor system, and lowered the second story ceiling to 8-foot ceiling with all the doors and head heights at 6'8" again. The only other way would be to lower the roof pitch a little, but then it wouldn't be consistent with the front, with the existing house.
Understood. I looked at the floor plan. You didn't put it up here for the second floor. Do you have that?
I do have both floor plans,
So my question is just the windows.
placement-wise.
Placement, and did you explore adding any additional windows on the Central Avenue facade?
Sure. So, second story you wanted to see first?
Please.
Second story?
Yeah.
Zoom back out. Move this. Let me zoom it a little bit up more so. Okay. So, these are the stairs coming in from the back. When you come into the structure, there'll be a living area, kitchen. This might be dining or however they use it. It's going to be a 1-bedroom with a walk-in closet, a small bathroom, small stackable laundry area, and the air handler right now is proposed in the attics. The window placement, again, this is just space for, furniture and TV placement and things like that. This is on the central side.
Okay. And was there discussion for adding any additional when I wasn't around when you first presented?
No, originally this was the back side of it because the second story was flipped and the stairs were on the central side.
Got it.
So that was one of the suggestions, so we just flipped the entire second story and the windows fell that way, but we're not opposed to moving anything if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Carol?
Thank you. Good evening, thank you.
Good evening.
Actually, a first question for staff, just so I understand contextually. So you've got an existing structure of 694 square feet, and this is proposed at 1,600, so you called it a secondary primary structure. Is that it's the first I've heard of that reference. Is that unusual, but yet?
It is
Wow.
something we're seeing more and more of in this area with the residential multifamily zoning.
And clearly, there were a number of buildings on the lot over time, but now there's just the single property up front. So this is
Correct, yeah.
going onto the vacant rear. Can you, thank you, can you put the, Mr. Rivera, can you put the site plan back up?
Yes.
I just want to look at the entry into the garage from the alley. It's a two-car.
Yes, it's a
Two-car.
two-car. Let me push, I'm just gonna push this up so you can read it better. So we've got 3-foot flares, and it'll be a 20-foot wide driveway for 2 vehicles. The door is gonna be 16 feet, and 7 feet from the south side gives us 21.9 feet to the property line, just enough to get the vehicles out of the alley and everybody could still
How
use it.
wide is the alley there?
It's 9 feet,
Tight.
yeah.
And what's on the other side?
On the back side, there's another structure back here.
No, I'm sorry, to the north?
Oh, to the
Is that
north,
the
these are again other homes.
Is that fenced? Are
This
they-
is a fence there, yes. I believe we had pictures and,
Okay. Okay. And I'd like to assume you've accounted for how all of this construction activity will get staged and moved in and out of the site with that tight alley and on top of your neighbors. It can be quite inconvenient when that's happening.
I believe we'll have room to work on the side of the structure here from Central, probably.
Okay. Great, thank you.
I would like to follow up with a couple of questions. First, stating that a majority of my concerns have already been addressed by my fellow commissioners, but I'd like to stay right here on this site plan, if you would please, sir.
Okay.
There's a couple of little detail items that I do not see here that need some manner of clarification. First of all, you have an air conditioning system for the living space on this. Where do you plan to have this equipment placed, and how do you plan to have it screened?
The equipment will be behind the structure. Well, if you pull up the site plan, the equipment would be behind the structure, behind the stairs. So if we needed to screen it, we could, put a small fence around it. But I mean, there's privacy fence on both sides on the back, and this is an alley. Nobody, it would never be visible from the street unless somebody's riding through the alley. On the other end, it'll be behind the stairs, so the stairs will be also camouflaging it as well.
Yes, I understand. In relationship to the stairs, I see the placement of the stair and I see the placement of your driveway pad. What kind of walkway are you proposing to connect those two?
We're anticipating a 36-inch sidewalk to come around here.
And that is not shown, so that needs to be coordinated, I would assume, at some point in time.
I'm sorry, it was shown, I am showing it on my elevations, but yes, you're correct. I will show it on the site plan. Let me just pull this up real quick just to show you. As you can see here, I'm showing the 12 inches above grade, showing the driveway, and then here's the sidewalk that would be going to the stairs. But it will be added to the final site plan.
This is a good elevation to leave on the page at this point in time, because this follows through to my third and last question. You've gone through a great deal of discussion this evening about how you have mitigated the overall height of your structure. Do you anticipate on having any issues in having to seek a variance for that height, or are you within the height limitations available to you on this site?
I believe we are in it. We were trying to get down to a 22-foot elevation. That would be ideal. However, again, we just with the roof pitch and I've already lowered everything pretty much. I don't think we could, I don't think that would be feasible unless we lower the grade down, lower it right to even with grade, which isn't a very good idea,
Then I'd like to follow through with staff on this one. Are we within our height limitations available to this site?
Yes,
at
the
24 feet?
structure, I'm sorry, sir. The structure meets the primary structure setbacks, and the height limit in this zoning district is, I believe, it's 60 feet for the maximum height, with stepping in from the established setbacks is required for every foot above 35 feet, however.
Thank you very much, Elaine. That is all the questioning I have at this point in time. Ladies and gentlemen of this commission, are there any further questions?
Nope.
Seeing none, hearing none. Sir, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I have none. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, I will close this public hearing and open up the discussion of the commissioners on this proposal. Please, at will. Carol, ladies first.
I have no additional comments. My additional questions have been answered by previous questions as well, so I'm set. Thank you.
I think we're running into this more and more often where, especially where the zoning is multifamily, that a secondary structure on the property becomes the major structure, and the primary structure becomes the minor structure. And we can hem and haw, and I think they did probably about as much as they can to reduce the height. I'm not sure why 12 inches above the grade is fully needed. It's a little excessive. We could ask them to maybe, revisit that, in the manner of 8 or 6 inches above grade. But, something, I mean, if 6 inches above grade is gonna flood, then they have another problem. And that reduces the exposed band, against grade and becomes a little more proportional. I'd like to see how the fence is treated and how the posts are realigned, and do you have half pieces of the fencing between posts cut in half, and all of a sudden now it's awkward. And I think there's a number of things that they were supposed to come before us with that they didn't bring. The types of doors, the types of hardware, the garage door in particular. While it's only visible from the alley, and it's a very narrow alley, and their neighbors have fences, the next neighbor might not have a fence, and it's facing somebody's house. And the lighting fixtures. I don't think these are things that can't be dealt with as conditions. They're not hard to deal with. We're hard pressed to try to help out and get things taken care of and not demand people come back and bring small things like that. But I don't know, how do we
Create the laundry list.
I know, but how do we handle this, so that it always seems like the more and more things are missing from applications that aren't supposed to be missing from applications. And, to what extent do we allow it to happen before we put our foot down?
Point taken.
I feel that there are some things which are very easy to coordinate. There's a piece of information that is offered. It is yes, no. More typically in the district, we see this, and that is and that provides an answer. And so I think that most of these things can be handled as a laundry, as conditions. I have no difficulty with that. It is the only thing that stands out to me as something that we don't usually see, something that I actually have no problem with, but I think that it deserves discussion, is the metal stairway. But it is, of course, it's on the back side of this thing. It's not even on the alley side.
Right.
And so it seems to me like it's certainly an acceptable alternative. It, had this building been built within it, the years of activity in this district, it is not unreasonable to say that they might have put in a metal stair. Slightly different details, but nonetheless metal.
I mean, I think details like that, in fact, I always go back to, what if this, which is perfectly logical, you can build a modern little, box back there, as long as it blends with the massing. We haven't even discussed that. Is massing and scale appropriate for the neighborhood? But again, being pushed back from the street and not facing the street, and on a very narrow alley, I think the massing and scale gets reduced quite a bit issue. But if you're doing a little modern box, I keep going back to this little gem of a garage that is, I won't talk about the property or who owned it, but there's a little gem of a garage in Hyde Park that is behind a very grand contributing structure that is, it's lovely and it's detailing and it's all glass and steel and done very well. And if you did that, you could put a stair on it. You could put a metal stair on it. I think it would be totally appropriate. So I'm not as concerned about the steel stair or the metal stair because it's not facing the street. And it does not alter the character of the neighborhood or the experience of passersby or sidewalk walkers or anything else like that. So that doesn't bother me. And again, yes, we could always do laundry lists. We can do laundry lists as long as possible with conditions. I'm just bringing the issue up that I don't like doing laundry lists. I don't like doing laundry, period, in my own home.
That's a personal issue. To your point.
A disqualifying issue.
To your point, I think your comments about this can be a separate conversation with staff. And saying, hey, if they don't come prepared, be prepared. We're about at the end of the patience, and be prepared if these are going to be rejected. So that staff maybe can have a more firm conversation with applicants saying, hey, this is the tenor of the board.
Right.
This is a distinct possibility if you come unprepared.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'd like to chime in a little bit on the matter of the proposed stair. I don't have an objection at all to the nature of the material. I have a part objection to the way it's handled. Granted, it is a very utilitarian structure, and there is some benefit to having, the weatherability of such a structure in terms of long-term maintenance. I understand exactly where that is, but this also dovetails to many other such structures that we see coming through before this board, and they are wood stairs, also of a very utilitarian nature, at least at this level of presentation. And the question I really have is, should these elements be actually brought up in terms of their detailing to be more compatible with the nature of the craftsman ethic that goes into either the original structure on the site or adjoining structure, as we're seeing here, as it being part of the entire district? A simple expression of what is that handrail, as an example, or how are the ends of the individual landings being handled, the overhangs, the overlaps. How much of it is this really being crafted as a stair as opposed to just being a utilitarian object? And this is not really a big conversation point here, but I think it's something that we need to pay attention to, for all of these sorts of presentations, because I think we're losing the piece of craftsmanship that we're looking at as being part of the contributing work or the new work to these districts, simply because it's just a stair.
That's a good point.
But there's a lack of detail. In this presentation, there's a lack of detail of what that stair really is. Yes, we saw a handrail, which is a small tube and smaller tubes pickets. But there's no design of the treads and the risers, and how's that? Is it diamond plate? Is it steel? Is it painted? Is it aluminum? I mean, there's all kinds of missing information on that stair that I think would maybe help you have a better understanding of it.
Okay.
And should the top tube and the bottom tube be fatter? Should have better proportions? Should it?
It's a big element that needs its own design effort.
Right, except that it doesn't face public view. Which, again, I think that's part of our board, our mandate as a board, is does it impact the neighborhood, or?
I understand where you're going to that, because it can't be seen, but when you're dealing with a very large element that's part of the entire proposal, to me, it becomes almost like a touchstone as to what level of quality are we going to be expecting for the whole of the project as it comes to fruition, final detailing and actual construction.
Fully understand, yeah.
And I would, I would add to that, it doesn't face the street, but it faces the neighbors and on a tight alley and, others that are subject to looking at it. So I think the importance of all that you described become relevant for matters larger than just cars driving by.
I throw wrenches at things and just bring things up to create trouble. I do that, that's part of my nature. But no, I agree. I think it's a major design element, even though it's not facing the public and not facing the street, and that we have no idea what they could possibly build out there,
What was your thought about the window placement and door alignment on the Central Avenue facade?
I mean, I put full-height windows in bathrooms all the time. People always say, oh, I don't want a bathroom window that goes down to the toilet, top or whatever. I do it all the time. You just put, a shade there or some drapes or even, obscure glass or a piece of film, There's all the ways of doing that. I hate those little half windows. If there isn't a countertop beneath it, I hate the little half windows, personally. And especially on the street-facing elevation. I don't have, I'm not horribly opposed or in love with it either way.
It's kind of funny how the presentation belies the fact that this is really a very small structure. It's basically a 20 by 40 structure. And you can only plug so many windows on a side here before things get really out of hand. And the fact that we do have a floor plan that we saw, which seemed to be quite logically laid out, is very minimal in its own respect. So where would you put extra windows, or where would you slide them down the wall? We don't have a grander imposition of a structure here that gives us the wiggle room to make some of those changes actually happen.
Right.
I would like to have that, but that's not the situation that we have.
The two gable sides are one single window in the center of the gable and all that.
It's all symmetrical.
Yeah. The side facing the street, I understand that's probably the one we want to pay the most attention to, and make more suggestions to, like I said, I have no problem putting a full-size window over a toilet. It can be done, and would help that elevation be a little more proportional and elegant.
Do I have any further comment?
Was there something, Ted, you saw? I mean, was the alignment on the street facing out of whack? I just don't, I can't see it, and we can't ask for it to be propped back up, but I don't.
It wasn't out of whack, it wasn't beautiful.
No, it wasn't
just-
beautiful.
It is what it is, and it's set all the way back, I think it's appropriately set.
Yeah.
And functionally with the floor plan, to your point, I didn't see any magic solution that would improve it, and I think it's very functional, it just is what it is.
And we just don't have enough building here to contend with some manner of proportion and balance.
Right, the existing structure, referring to the existing structure.
Oh, no, I'm talking the new
Oh,
one.
the new one, yeah. Yeah, the new one isn't big enough to start saying,
The existing structure, they have a window in every wall that they have a wall of,
but
and
it's
it's enough.
even smaller, yeah. There's probably no place to hang a painting in that little building. of any
Over the
size.
toilet.
Over the toilet, there you go. I have nothing else to discuss.
Do I have a motion for this proposal?
I have one other question. In looking
Please.
at the staff report, the last statements are around providing a complete material palette, including but not limited to samples, examples, and cut sheets of, and it goes through the following, many of which were provided, but when we spoke about the garage doors, the hardware, the lighting, was that not provided?
That is not been provided.
Right,
No.
So
so
that's-
but was
that's
it
the open
expected to
question.
be here, but
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
not?
we
Understood.
typically ask for that, and it didn't come.
Okay,
I mean, that's actually on their checklist, to provide. That's why I brought up the case of how many times do we let things go without saying, hey, we can't let continued incomplete applications continue to come in front of us. Because it causes us
Understood.
more trouble, number one,
And it causes staff some trouble to coordinate.
It certainly does.
They should at least have something that's a touchstone, something that's entered into the record as to an intent. The final detailing.
That can
and
be
massaging,
commented on, right,
That's another matter, but at least it's in part of the record.
right. And I'll just throw this out there. Is the specificity or lack of specificity, I'm not even pronouncing it right, on the metal stairs, is that enough that we require to see it?
My attitude is, I would like staff to review it one last time, because there was very little detail, but I just think we need to have a discussion moving forward, and just say,
Good.
hey, this is about the end of the patience.
Yeah. Because that's a pretty major piece of something that, should we have a say over? And we don't have enough information to have a say over it. Again, we can dump it all on the staff and as people force us to do from time to time. But I needed to air that and get that off my chest. All right.
Read the proper. Let's see. I'm sorry, I need my. Move to grant no, it's not preliminary approval, excuse me. Variance request, no. You've changed this. Ah, yes, thank you. Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 24-15 for the property located at 2303 North Central Avenue with the following conditions. That the location of the condenser and the sidewalks be noted on the site plan, that additional information and cut sheets be submitted on the doors, their hardware, the garage door, the lighting fixtures, and the metal stairs. because based upon the finding of fact,
I would like to add coordination for the surgical work on the existing fence.
okay. So added to the conditions, the coordination of the work on the existing fence. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights Historic District Design Guidelines in the City of Tampa for the following reasons. The materiality, the massing and building form, and the setback are consistent with the other buildings of the district.
Before we continue, Mr. Rivera, do you understand the nature of these conditions that are brought forward at this time?
Yes, 100%.
All those in favor of this motion, please.
Did we need a second?
Do we, yeah, we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Against, say nay. Nay. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we adjourn this meeting, please, I would like to receive from this board a motion to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits presented tonight.
Motion to receive and file.
Second, please.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes again. I call this Architectural Historic Commission review meeting for today, Monday, February 5th, closed. Thank you all very much.